days of toting water, anytime that you have to bid. Oh, when people pass and they see you, oh, my Lord used to feel that shame. Wondering if this lasts forever. Wondering when. Remember the days of toting water, anytime that you have to bid. Oh, when people pass and they see you, oh, my Lord used to feel that shame. Wondering if this lasts forever. Wondering when. Remember the days of toting water, anytime that you have to bid. Oh, when people pass and they see you, oh, my Lord used to feel that shame. Wondering if this lasts forever. Wondering when. Remember the days of toting water, anytime that you have to bid. Oh, when people pass and they see you, oh, my Lord used to feel that shame. Wondering if this lasts forever. Wondering when. Remember the days of toting water, anytime that you have to bid. Oh, when people pass and they see you, oh, my Lord used to feel that shame. Wonder.
Even the new and young voters of Trinidad and Tobago, we are the People's National Movement. And we are here tonight, in the sweet constituency of Tunapuna. Tunapuna people, make some noise. Let me welcome you, our Red Warriors, and equally, brothers and sisters, I want to welcome and I want to invite all members of our national community who are still searching for a political party that will best represent you and your family's interests. I say to you, brothers and sisters of Trinidad and Tobago, look no further, for you will find exactly what you need here in the house of the People's National Movement. My brothers and sisters of Trinidad and Tobago, I invite you to come here tonight and to listen to what we, the People's National Movement, have on offer for you. Allow me, brothers and sisters, to recognize Dr. the Honorable Keith Christopher Rowley, our political leader who's en route to this destination. Allow me to, come on, a round of applause for our political leader. Allow me to recognize the distinguished members all of our head table. Allow me to recognize Mrs. Joan Yule Williams, the matriarch of the People's National Movement. All ministers of government, senators and members of parliament, all executive members of the movement, Mr. Eddie Hart, who have graced us with his presence. All officers of the movement, our 141 young, dynamic and incredible warriors who have offered themselves to serve Trinidad and Tobago, members of the viewing and listening public, members of the media, again I repeat it, we are the People's National Movement. Brothers and sisters of Trinidad and Tobago, we come to you from the PNM camp. The war cry has been sounded. The date has been set. Our 141 soldiers have been dispatched, and they will be coming to you down every nook, every cranny, every trace, every track, every village, every community. We ask you to give them your support. We ask you to embrace them. We ask you to support them because they are the right people at the right time and they are the right choice for governance in Trinidad and Tobago. Give our candidates a round of applause. So tonight we are here to speak with you, not at you, but with you. And by the end of tonight, we will convince you that a vote for the People's National Movement is a vote for reform. That deserves a round of applause. A vote for the People's National Movement is a vote for taking charge of local government. That deserves a round of applause. A vote for the People's National Movement is a vote for a brighter future for your children, your grandchildren, the people, all people, every creed and race of Trinidad and Tobago. That deserves a round of applause. Tonight we have a powerful lineup of speakers who will report to you and who will show you what the PNM has on offer. So allow me to get into our program tonight as we set the stage for reform. Brothers and sisters, we start tonight with one of our 141 candidates who's offering herself to serve you. This, brothers and sisters, is the right person, the right choice for reform in the area of 5 Rivers. Our next speaker is an HR practitioner living in Bon Air, West Arouca for 20-odd years. Bon Air, West, 5 Rivers. 5 Rivers, let me hear you. I see the MP there in all his glory. A woman who served you already at a village council level and a beloved spiritual leader and counselor. Let us welcome to the political house, make some noise for your candidate, Miss Desiree de Freitas.
Give praise, children. Give praise. Give praise, children, yeah. Give praise. Give praise, children, yeah.
Wow. Wow, wow, wow. True PNM style. Yes, true PNM style. Yes, and good evening. I want to say good evening to my Prime Minister. I know he's on his way, so wherever he is, I know he might be hearing us, so I want to greet him first. So I say good evening to our Honorable Prime Minister, Dr. Keith Christopher Rowley. I want to say good evening to the head table. I want to say good evening to my fellow candidates. I want to say good evening to the public. Those of you who might be listening on your different platform, I just want to say good evening. I want to say welcome. It is a privilege and an honor always to be before my people, always reporting, because it's a good thing to report, and you must listen to the right people so you get the right information. So who best to talk about me is me. So I want to tell you about me and my encounter. I am now coming off a 3-year term as a councillor. So my name is Desiree de Freitas. I live in the Borneo West community. I am the representative for the candidate for Five Rivers District. The Five Rivers District boundaries is on the eastern side, which is Lupino Road, on the western side, Dandrad Street. Between those streets on the southern side is the Eastern Main Road, and on the northern side is the hills. So we have a lot of hills. We have like Manimore Road, Laurel Hill, William Trace, just to name a few. And the Five Rivers District is in the Lopino-Bonnie West constituency, and the Lopino-Bonnie West constituency is in the Tunapuna Piaco Regional Corporation. So that being said, I just want to say a little bit about my encounter as a councillor in the Five Rivers District and in the Tunapuna Piaco Regional Corporation. I want to talk about the accomplishments. I was able to address 106 street lights that were repaired, rarely repaired. We have a little situation when sometimes when workers come and work, it repair and sometimes it gone. But 106 is working properly from those repair calls we would have done. We had 30 new lightings. We had 20 water connection, that's new connection. We had 175 leaks. Out of those 175 leaks, we would have done some road repairs after fixing the leak for 160 of those. The remainders are still left to be done. We had 12 road paving and 9 drain. The road paving and the drainage, they came out of the development program. Developmental programs, projects we would take as a councillor after walking our district to get information and see how best we could help and alleviate some of the discomfort and bring ease to the community. Then we had 6 convex mirror, and in the Five Rivers District, we will have some corners and whatnot, so the vision wasn't so clear, and this convex mirror is what helps us to better maneuver and work around while we drive. We also attended to 40 MRRG. And I always talk about this MRRG because it's a minor repair and reconstruction grant. A lot of persons don't know about this grant, but this is a grant that I think anybody who have a concern where they want to develop their space, once they meet the requirement, you could always access this grant. Also, we were able to, under LSA and the Ministry of Housing, we were able to achieve 5 HVIP. And the HVIP speaks to the Housing and Village Improvement Program. That too is another program that could help persons with dilapidated homes and properties to get a kind of concrete structure. I also want to speak to this. And while saying this, I want to just include this. This HVIP program came with just having your walls, no partition. And then my MP, the Honorable Minister Marvin Gonzalez, saw the need to enhance, always looking to help and make it a little better. So he decided, I suppose with guidance, hoping again him in trouble, and we have put in lights and water. Yes, we are helping our people. So, Minister, I hope I'm not getting in trouble, but it's all in good. PNM people do the right thing to better our lives, and that's what he's doing. That is what he's doing. So rather you have the house, you don't have no water, you don't have no light, because sometimes they're wondering what we're doing. Yes, so we completed. What we did, he completed this program. So I don't know how long it could last, by the way, just in case. So those persons who benefited, you know, you just have to say thank you and hope that we could continue. And we will talk about continuing, what will cause us to be able to continue. It's coming. Then we had the COVID. COVID would have been with us for 2 years, and we were able to do some outreach, and we were able to attend to 100 persons with the rental and the taxis, the maxi taxis, transport, and persons who would have lost their jobs. We also gave out 150 food hampers, as the grocery ones, We gave out 150 vegetable hampers. We gave out chicken packs and soup bags. We also were able to give out 1,500 hot meals. And these hot meals went a long way. And we went to the churches, we went to the police station, we went to different homes giving out these hot meals, because even with the COVID, some persons might have been under the weather, and this little hot meal just made it happen for them. We also normally do, which is one of my signature events, sweet box or bread box. So that also was able to help 1,500 homes to just ease the day, even if it's just to get a meal. When you're hungry, anything will work. So, you know, they were very appreciative of that. And again, I want to thank those persons who would have helped me, because we have stakeholders who buy into our ideas to make this happen. You know, I made a mention just now to relationship. I call out my MP, and I want to also call out my chairman now. These two gentlemen, they have been instrumental in my walk and my work as a councillor. And I want to say here today, tonight, to my colleagues, that you all must have a working relationship with your MP and your chairman. And this year, it would not happen. You need to have that relationship. Bring all your concerns. I did that. I used to be badgering my chairman night and day, writing. I want to say, you know, we had flood in 2020 and 2022, and I was able to address 186 Burgesses getting back the wall and getting some kind of comfort. And that is because I tallied and tarried with my MP and my chairman. That needs a round of applause. I also want to say thank you to the stakeholders. I also want to say thank you to the government agencies, because we tap into their councillors. These grants are there for us to reach out. Once you reach out there, half your worries are over. The next half is to just complete it. You must go back. You must follow through. That is what makes the difference. Because sometimes when you take it, you know, you're wondering, you must be the one, make the call, go down there, get familiar with your agent, get a point person. That's what makes the difference. I want to just talk about some of the weaknesses. Yes. Sorry. Yes, so the weaknesses, not enough funding, not enough machinery, not enough, all right, let's just do this. Not enough funding, not enough machinery, none of material. And this hampered us. And I'm glad I'm here because I want to talk to the reform. The reform will make the difference. The reform will make the difference. The reform will give us autonomy. The reform will provide financing. Through financing, we'll be able to deliver. And as we deliver, in order to go back for more money, we will be accountable. So I just want to say, at this point in time, we will be rolling with Dr. Rowley. We will be delivering with the Freitas. We will be rolling with Marvin. We vote in PNM. We voting for the right choice. We vote in PNM because it's the right people and it's the right reason. And as we always end, great is the PNM, great is the PNM, great is the PNM, and we shall prevail. Thank you.
We can do better than that for your next member, your next representative. Give her a round of applause. Give Mr. Freitas a round of applause. And ladies and gentlemen, Trinidad and Tobago, that is PNM performance. But I will tell you what is the UNC's performance briefly. And I will take you back to the Local Government Reform Bill 2020 as I briefly quote from the Hansard, page 44 to 45. And it was a quote by our Honorable Minister, Mrs. Camille Robinson-Regis. Madam Speaker, that report which is before us today for consideration was signed by all parties, including the independent senators, but not by the members of the opposition who tabled the minority report. However, if nothing else, last week showed us and the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago that my colleagues on the opposite side do not truly understand and do not truly appreciate the role and the function of local government. I didn't make up that, brothers and sisters. That is on the record in the Hansard of the Parliament of Trinidad and Tobago. So when they come to you and talk about local government, understand from even before 2020, but the Hansard will show that especially in 2020, they cared nothing about local government reform. And so we continue with our program. Anybody from Ozanville? Anybody from Cora and Paradise? Anybody from Tunapuna? Our next speaker is a man who is always on the ground. You can find him, brothers and sisters, not just at his constituency on office day, but at every graduation, every funeral, every football and cricket match, anything that is happening in his constituency, you name it, the next speaker is on board. He serves this country as the deputy speaker of the House of Representatives. He has served you since 2015. A Hillview College old boy who has my admiration because he's a man of the people, for the people. My political brother, MP for Tunapuna and the Deputy Speaker of the House of Representatives. Join me as I welcome to the political hustings your Member of Parliament, the Honorable Mr. Esmond Forde.
We coming. PNM. Yeah. All right. Okay. Tunapuna people. Welcome one and all. No more fitting person to welcome you to this meeting this afternoon other than Esmond Forde. We on board with Forde. Back to school. Mr. Anthony Garcia, an old Hillview boy, former education minister. And before I get into the actual welcome, do you know we have four members, past students of Hillview College, 3 as local government candidates. We have John Boyd Briggs as one of the candidates. We have Dwayne Mora, also a Hillview old boy. Reginald Gregg, also a Hillview old boy. And of course, yours truly, a Hillview old boy. Welcome back to school, guys. Welcome to Tunapuna, the administrative center of the Tunapuna Piarco Regional Corporation. Welcome to the area and community of El Dorado, the city of gold. Welcome to El Dorado. The reason most of us, if not all of us, being in the nation of Trinidad and Tobago, that search for the quest for gold, good governance, and of course, local government reform. Again, we bid you welcome to the View from the Hill, Hillview College, to prepare you to undertake the critical and necessary tasks for the implementation of the long overdue of local government reform in Trinidad and Tobago. Tunapuna and the Tunapuna Piarco Regional Corporation welcome all to this meeting here tonight. Those here with us physically, as well as those by the digital media and on the World Wide Web. Ladies and gentlemen, Tunapuna Piarco Regional Corporation is wide and far-reaching. Within our boundaries, we possess airports, hospitals, universities, diverse industries, and communities. All and sundry types of limes, yes, we know of limes, from citrus to the renewed Cora River. You know the famous Cora River. Tunapuna,
the microcosm of the Trinidad society, the birthplace of two famous societal and economic thinkers, C.L.R. James and economist Lloyd Bess. It formed part of the areas called the University City, yes, St. Joseph, Tunapuna, and St. Augustine, the academic capital of Trinidad and Tobago. It is only fitting that tonight, the People's National Movement will continue to outline the benefits of local government reform, as delineated in the miscellaneous provisions Local Government Reform Act number 11 of 2022. Ladies and gentlemen, this is where the rubber have hit the road. Our society have touched down. The plane has landed in the 21st century for local government reform. Our society has evolved and is constantly transforming. So must our model of governance evolve and transform to meet our needs with efficacy and effectiveness. Then, why I ask, should our local government bodies continue to depend solely on the consolidated fund from funding from central government, when within the original local government legacy ordinance there are provisions for the raising of resources from the local landscape and municipalities? Ladies and gentlemen, we all, from time to time, look back to see where we came from, but is not the direction of progress and forward movement only a positional check to look back to see where we would have come from. In welcoming you tonight, I took a peek behind the curtains. Today's gathering is a testament of our shared commitment to the development and progress of our communities and country. It brings together representatives, members of our vibrant community, government officials, local government candidates, and individuals who are dedicated to the betterment of our country. It is a clear demonstration that the People's National Movement is the only choice, the right choice in 2023. As I welcome you, the People's National Movement local government campaign goes beyond mere party affiliation. It is about all of us. It embodies the collective voice of our citizens, the hopes and dreams we share, and the vision we have for our communities as we work towards realization of Vision 2030. We celebrate the diversity that enriches us, leverage our collective strength to overcome the challenges and seize the opportunities, especially through local government reform. Our local government campaign has been rooted in meaningful conversations and engagement. We have actively listened to your concerns and have tirelessly sought to understand the issues that matters you most. That is the People's National Movement. The right choice, the only choice. Our goal extends beyond winning an election. We strive to build a stronger, more inclusive society that benefits every citizen. Only the PNM can bring about real and lasting change. Throughout our campaign, we have been door to door, held meetings, and engaging with communities at every level. We value your input, and together we will shape the future of our country and community. As we move forward, brothers and sisters, let us remain united by our common purpose, the sustained growth of our beloved nation, under the steadfast leadership of our Honorable Prime Minister, Dr. Keith Christopher Rowley, and political leader. We have navigated the most challenging of circumstances. Together, let us write the next chapter of history of our country and communities, a chapter where progress and prosperity are within reach for all. Your support and active participation are key to our collective success. To conclude, nonetheless, as I close my welcoming address to you this evening, I can assure you that the People's National Movement and the speakers would continue for Tunapuna and the Tunapuna Piarco Regional Corporation and its tradition to educate, to edify, and to be forward-thinking. The approach to local government reform and good governance, only that can be delivered by the People's National Movement. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to all, whether near or far, in person live or virtually online, hoping to see you soon after elections, or for our continued edification to you or your children. Welcome to each and everyone, and God's continued blessings. And great is the PNM. Great is the PNM. Great is the PNM, and we shall prevail. I thank you.
We're coming, we're coming, we're coming, we're coming, we're coming! PNM! PNM!
Brothers and sisters, the man whose political career began in local government, you could do better than that. Let us give MP Forde a round of applause. You know, Trinidad and Tobago, again, I want to take you back to the Hansard that speaks to the PNM's position on local government. Brothers and sisters, we must not forget that. So when the UNC come around us and try to mamagai us, we will have the facts. Brothers and sisters, the PNM has always advocated for local government. And according to the Hansard dated June the 30th, 1992, Kenneth Valley, Minister of Local Government and Minister in the Ministry of Finance, and we have him, I have the quote here, which states, in 1991, he stated that the PNM reaffirms its commitment to a system of local government which ensures that the people have the opportunity, to assume authority and management of their own communities. And that continues to be the People's National Movement's position. And we will now introduce to you some of those warriors who will be coming to you again, offering themselves to serve you, the people of the Tunapuna Piako region. And to introduce our slate of candidates for this region, it gives me great pleasure to welcome to the hustings a young man who is a born and bred PNM man. Give him a round of applause, brothers and sisters, Mr. Faris Robinson.
Good evening, Tunapuna. I'll tell you all the secret. The wonderful thing about the PNM is, as a young man in La Hokata, following the Honorable Camille Robinson-Regis, when she come to visit, and seeing the Honorable Penelope Beckles Robinson, as a young man with no money, no connections in the party, and wanting to serve, the PNM gives all of us an opportunity to serve together. Sorry. Hi, good evening. PDK 3985, a black X-Trail.
Brothers and sisters, I just ask you that, this is just a matter of housekeeping kindly. The driver of PDK 3985, a black X-Trail, it is blocking the entrance. The driver of PDK 3985, kindly attend to your vehicle. And we're hearing the commotion outside, so you know what is happening. The People's National Movement, the people of the PNM, I ask you to stand as we make way and as we get ready to welcome the MVP, the most valuable politician. The MVP, the most valuable politician. Put your hands together, brothers and sisters, as we welcome to Tunapuna, your political leader, our political leader, the Prime Minister of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, Dr. the Honorable Keith Christopher Rowley.
Make it.
welcome political leader of the People's National Movement, Dr. the Honorable Keith Christopher Rowley. I would like to call tonight the first candidate who representing Ozonville, Tunapuna, and your next councillor, Mr. John Boyd Bernard Briggs. Put your hands together, Tunapuna.
We love you so, we take good care of you. Only the PNM.
The next candidate and your next councillor for Blanchester Santa Rosa, Sheldon Roger Moore.
Only the PNM.
Your next councillor for Bonnie Arouca Cane Farm, Maria Batiste. Your next councillor for Carapo, Mr. Derek Laguerre. Your next councillor for Coral Paradise Sacarigua, Mr. Reginald Gregg. Your next councillor for Cleveland Davidi, Ms. Shakila Clark. Your next councillor for Kira Fage, Ms. Neela Marad. Your next councillor for Five Rivers, Ms. Desiree de Freitas Foster. Your next councillor for Kelly Village, Warrenville, Ms. Alicia Ali. Your next councillor for La Flores and Lopino, Mr. Dwayne Mora. Your next councillor for Macoya Twin City, Mr. Josiah Diesel Austin. Your next councillor for Maracas Santa Margarita, Mr. Trudel Norega. Your next councillor for Mousica Maloney, Mr. Stephon Watley. Your next councillor for St. Augustine South, Piaco St. Helena, Ms. Latoya Tento. Your next councillor for Val St. Joseph, Mr. Via Isaac. And your next councillor for Wallaby Lokota, Ms. Carrie-Ann Roberts Kasmali. These are your next councillors for the Tunapuna Piaco Regional Corporation. Put their hands up, put their hands together for them. Thank you very much. Your next councillor for the Tunapuna Corporation.
Young, dynamic, fresh, every creed and race that can find an equal space and place you saw here tonight. Tunapuna Piaco, give your next councillors a round of applause. And as we get into tonight's program, we could feel the fire. Brothers and sisters, you hear about fire? Well, the next speaker is what we call more fire. Brothers and sisters, in the PNM, in the government, in the parliament, and in her constituency, she wears so many hats. And boy, oh boy, does she wear those hats with distinction. But I will say this to you, Trinidad and Tobago, despite her massive and many portfolios, everyone who has had contact with our next speaker knows that she makes herself so accessible and so available to guide the new and younger politicians like myself, and I'm sure our 141 warriors could attest to that. She gives us support, guidance, and even a little buff now and then. But once you receive that buff, mark my words, you move away learning something. And that is what we do in the People's National Movement. We train our younger ones. Brothers and sisters, the next speaker is someone I truly respect, I truly love, and I truly admire. She is what you call fire and finesse in one. Fire and finesse in one. Tunapuna, put your hands together as I welcome to the political hustings. It gives me great pleasure to welcome the beautiful, the powerful Member of Parliament for Arouca Maloney. Arouca Maloney, make some noise. The Minister of Housing and your MP, the Honorable Camille Robinson-Regis.
Political Leader of the People's National Movement, Honorable Keith Christopher Rowley, Deputy Political Leader Rohan Sinanan, Special Advisor to the Political Leader, Madam Joan Yule Williams, Operations Officer Irene Hines, Mayor Varima Cagney Casimir, Chairman of the Tunapuna Piarco Regional Corporation, Mr. Kwesi Robinson, members and supporters of the only true political party in Trinidad and Tobago, Honorable Esmond Forde, Honorable Faris Al-Rawi, ladies and gentlemen, we are here tonight to tell you the political truths. Welcome to the battleground of Tunapuna and the Tunapuna Piarco Regional Corporation. It is here that political pundits say that elections are either won or lost. And as I look at the lineup of candidates for the Tunapuna Piarco Regional Corporation here tonight, I know that the PNM is once again winning the Tunapuna Piarco Regional Corporation. But even though I know this, ladies and gentlemen, it cannot happen unless you come out and put your X solidly by the Balizé on August 14th. You have to come out and place your X solidly for the People's National Movement. Tonight, I want to talk to you as someone whose life and career has been embroiled in politics for a very long time. I know I don't look so, but why are you laughing? And someone who has sacrificed to ensure that the PNM is always at the top of the political pile. Ladies and gentlemen, politics in its truest sense is a noble profession, but it is politicians who give the profession a bad name. I believe that those who see politics only as a means of satisfying their own selfish agenda and as an opportunity to enrich themselves and their friends are only here for their nefarious ends. Those are the ones who have twisted and corrupted the politics of Trinidad and Tobago. I believe that Trinidad and Tobago is a blessed country, and our people, for the most part, are God-fearing people. And over the course of our years in politics, I have had cause to explore the various religious texts and what they say. Ladies and gentlemen, in the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna imparts spiritual wisdom to the warrior prince Arouca, who is hesitant to fulfill his duty and fight in a righteous war. The text emphasizes the importance of performing one's duty selflessly and without attachment to the outcome. This principle can be extended to politicians, highlighting the significance of acting in the best interest of the people that they serve, rather than pursuing personal gain or engaging in dishonest practices. Dishonesty and deceit are considered contrary to the principles of righteousness and can lead to negative consequences. In the Holy Quran, there is the concept of the amana, which refers to the responsibility or trust that is bestowed upon individuals, particularly individuals in leadership. And this is a concept that can be shown by political leaders, emphasizing that they have a trust and a responsibility to serve the people honestly and ethically. Misusing power, being dishonest in any way, is explicitly condemned by Islam. Whilst those of us who are Christians follow the 10 Commandments, Proverbs 12:22 declares, "The Lord detests lying lips, but he delights in people who are trustworthy." Ephesians 4:25 says, "Believers speak the truth and avoid falsehood. Therefore, each of you must put off falsehood and speak truthfully to your neighbor, for we are all members of one body." And ladies and gentlemen, I have quoted these holy texts because over the years we have found ourselves weighed against the prescription contained in these texts. And Kamla Pesad Bisesa, if the country doesn't know you by now, if the media doesn't know you by now, we of the PNM know you very well. We know who you are, and we know what you really want. And we know that you are not following either the Gita, the Quran, or the Bible, despite the fact that you say that you are baptized as a spiritual Baptist. Ladies and gentlemen, when the opposition leader is placed on the scales, she is repeatedly found wanting. She is repeatedly found to be less than worthy of her title as leader, unable to withstand the piercing gaze of truth. We need a selfless, not selfish leader. Not a woman who would say anything, do anything, or anyone to grab the reins of power. Ask Ramesh, ask Pandey, ask Jack, ask any woman that she had in the cabinet between 2010 and 2015. Ramona, Mary, Stacy, ask any of them, and they know the truth about Kamla, just like we know her truth. There are scores of examples of that opposition leader being less than truthful to the national community, or her saying one thing and then changing to another. Ladies and gentlemen, one glaring example is her treatment of the Caribbean Court of Justice. You must recall that in 2012, speaking in the Parliament of Trinidad and Tobago as Prime Minister, she said, and I quote, "As a measure of our growing confidence in the CCJ, and as a mature and leading world democracy, in this year of our 50th independence anniversary, we will table legislation acceding to the criminal appellate jurisdiction of the CCJ. Mr. Speaker, by our commitment today, the Government of the People's Partnership signals a most historic development in the administration of justice in independent Trinidad and Tobago. These pledges to strengthen our democracy from the core values to the manifesto of the People's Partnership. Today, we deliver yet again on a promise to generations to come. End of quote. Ladies and gentlemen, we're still waiting on that. Fast forward 3 years later, the same Kamla, now in opposition in 2015, slammed the same CCJ, declaring her opposition to it because the composition of the bench is devoid of East Indians, as if the appointment of judges must be done on the basis of their race and not on the basis of merit. The same Kamla that we know. The Express editorial writer on May 26, 2022 said this, and I quote, "The opposition party's about face on the CCJ is so extreme that we might well be in the world of Alice in Wonderland." Ladies and gentlemen, this is not the only matter on which Kamla continuously misleads this country. And I say tonight, as I've said before, the opposition leader is a stranger to the truth. She is unable to distinguish fact from fiction because over the years she has clothed herself in untruths, and now she is totally incapable of any discernment. So we have seen this not just with the CCJ, but also in several areas of legislative reform. When they were in government, they supported the bail bill. Now, they would not give that support. They have opposed every single piece of legislation that would speed up the administration of justice, sometimes with their only argument being that they don't trust this government. Ladies and gentlemen, our job as a parliament is to bring the legislation to the parliament. Our job as representatives is to ensure we do what is in the best interest of the people of Trinidad and Tobago. We are sure that we do what is in the best interest of our people. And we tell Kamla tonight that yours must be to try and see what is in the best interest of the people, not just your selfish interests. The painful truth is that these are not the only instances. And there has been a clear pattern of untruths, deliberate misleading of the citizenry, and that has been the order of the day. Kamla Persad-Bissessar continues to dance with the demons. Then one can only conclude that the goodly lady has a serious problem distinguishing fact from fiction, having a sober constitution from one that is inebriated. Another glaring example of her rank dishonesty is her continued platform talk that this government is going to impose an inheritance tax of 25% on the properties left by the deceased for their children. Another total, blatant untruth. The Minister of Finance has repeatedly said that nothing of the sort is on the cards. but Kamla continues to say it, believing her own, her own untruths, and she continues to make those statements. I wonder if she's fearful that Christian won't be able to pay the tax. But ladies and gentlemen, let me remind you that no such tax is on the cards. No such tax. All Kamla Persad-Bissessar has done throughout her career is to take actions that serve only to undermine the people of Trinidad and Tobago. Ladies and gentlemen, we heard her this last week when CARICOM leaders were here talking about the ineffectiveness of CARICOM. Ladies and gentlemen, those of you who have been around for some time may remember that she has never taken any interest in CARICOM. You'll remember how she continuously worked to undermine our relationship with Jamaica. You'll remember when there was the hurricane, she told St. Lucia and Grenada that the only way they could get help is if they ensured that they bought items from Trinidad and Tobago. You'll remember when our political leader said that we should have Dominicans here after the hurricane, that the UNC led by Kamla was against that totally. She has no interest in anybody but herself and those whom she thinks support her. Kamla's history has been one of deceit and deception. Some of you might recall that as Minister of Education, she placed a school over a rum shop in Curep. Some of you might recall that she bought the B.H. Rose building that was riddled with asbestos for a school. Some of you may recall the teacup incident in the Parliament's tea room when she again engaged in falsehoods, stating that Dr. Rowley had thrown a teacup at former MP Chandresh Sharma, that Dr. Rowley had cuffed down Chandresh Sharma. Now, if Dr. Rowley had cuffed down Chandresh Sharma would not have survived that. The only way that we got the truth out of them was because then MP Gillian Lucky, who is now a High Court judge, spoke the truth about that incident. You all must recall the tales of Dansam Dansuk, which led to the resignations of Frankie Khan of blessed memory and Eric Williams from their ministerial portfolios, all because of misleading information from Kamla. Today, when we look at the opposition bench, there are several persons who are identified as persons of interest in ongoing police investigations or who are actually before the court on various legal matters, and Kamla supports that. You all must remember that it was Kamla who said that her sister was a nurse and she needed the sister to be with her all the time. Ladies and gentlemen, Kamla just too lied. I also remind you that they have an objection to property tax. But it was the $10 million Minister of Finance, Larry Hawaii, who ensured that the property tax remained on the books. And I want to tell Kamala tonight, the only one suffering from amnesia is you. The people of Trinidad and Tobago have not forgotten you, Kamala. Just as we will not forget that despite all your talk about constitutional reform, when you had 29 seats in the parliament, you did nothing about constitutional reform. The only constitutional reform that they brought in was Section 34, and that was for their friends. Kamala, we have not forgotten you. Ladies and gentlemen, this election, like every other election, is about trust. It is about who would manage the affairs of the regional corporations best for this country. This election, like every other election, is about leadership and whom you would want to be your leaders in the 14 regional corporations. Our political leader warned the people of Tobago about Farley. And now thousands in Tobago are regretting their decision to give Farley a chance. Elections are not about giving people a chance. Elections are about who is best suited to manage your affairs. And I simply ask you tonight to compare and contrast as we used to do in school. Compare and contrast Kamala Persad-Bissessar and Dr. the Honorable Keith Christopher Rowley as prime ministers and leaders. Compare and contrast Larry Hawaii and Colum Imbert as ministers of finance. Compare and contrast Rudal Munilal and Camille Robinson-Regis as ministers of housing and urban development. Compare and contrast Dr. Nian Gatsby-Dolly and Tim Gopi Singh as ministers of education. Compare and contrast Fitzgerald Hines against the 5 national security ministers who operated under the PPP. Compare and contrast Rohan Sinanan against Suruj Rambachan as ministers of works and transport. Compare and contrast Shamfa Kojo and Anil Roberts of life sport fame. Compare and contrast Reginald Armour and Anand Ram Logan as attorneys general. Compare and contrast any member of the PNM and any member of the UNC, and you know exactly which side you would fall on. I know that you would always be in favor of PNM, 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 PNM. Ladies and gentlemen, the opposition leader will never support local government reform. And your choice has to be to support local government reform. Your choice has to be the right choice. And I am not the least bit surprised that she has joined up with Garrulous Gary. This, ladies and gentlemen, is one more reason why you cannot trust her and you cannot trust the UNC. This, like so many other political alliances, is a marriage of convenience between two parties, neither of whom is worthy of our trust. And what is worse, neither of them trust each other. I want to remind you that Kamala fired Gary from her cabinet as a Minister of National Security because he dared to speak the truth against her blue-eyed boys. I want to remind you that Gary Griffith had all kinds of things to say about Kamala after he was fired. He corroborated a lot of the things that were being said anecdotally about her, including the 5-day weekends. He and all gave details about the plant-like substance that was found at the Pink Palace. But I want you all to remember that all fires stick. All right? And imagine Jack also joined up with these people. And I want to remind you tonight that when the Honorable Prime Minister and the PNM in the Parliament nominated Gary Griffith to be this country's police commissioner, Kamala Persad-Bissessar and the UNC did not support his nomination. Today, they're teaming up to do battle against the PNM. Well, I say to them tonight, play stupid and run into the PNM. We're waiting for you. We will beat them in every single corporation. We will beat them in Tunapuna Piarco Regional Corporation. We will beat them in Arima. We will beat them in Port of Spain. We will beat them in San Fernando. We will beat them in Sangre Grande. We will beat them all over Trinidad. And when we do that, ladies and gentlemen, we will say with one voice, great is the PNM. Great is the PNM. Great is the PNM, and we shall prevail. Thank you.
PNM, 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 play stupid and run into the PNM. We're ready and we're waiting for them. The PNM is great, brothers and sisters, and we are alive. Let me hear it. We are the People's National Movement. And we will bring home victory, but we will bring home victory with your support, brothers and sisters. This is time for us to move on to another section of our 141 candidates who have offered themselves to serve you. Brothers and sisters, let us now turn to the Royal Chartered Borough of Arima. Is Arima in the house? Trinidad and Tobago, as I said, another young, dynamic group of PNM soldiers who have offered themselves to serve you. I ask, join me, brothers and sisters, as I introduce to the political hustings to introduce our group of candidates from the Royal Chartered Borough of Arima. Brothers and sisters, put your hands together and welcome to the political hustings, the none other. This lady is a woman who I have the world of respect and admiration for. Put your hands together, Arima. Your Member of Parliament, the Honourable Minister of Planning and Development, Mrs. Penelope Beckles.
PNM family. Okay, So let me, of course, acknowledge our Prime Minister, Dr. the Honorable Keith Christopher Rowley, political leader of the only true political party in Trinidad and Tobago, the People's National Movement, deputy political leaders, cabinet colleagues, of course, winning candidates for local government. And I am here to let you know that come 14th of August, Arima will continue to see a sea of red as the people of Arima make the right choice and vote resoundingly for the People's National Movement. Arima candidates, Arima Central, bringing on Sheldon Fish Garcia, a man of the people. Bringing home for us in Arima Northeast, an accountant, a community activist, a proud mother, Kim Garcia. Arima West Omera is going brave with Dave, a businessman, a community activist. We give you Dave Mirage. Our next face, no stranger, from Calvary, youth officer of the PNM, a bachelor's degree in leadership. Jenny Scott, bringing home for the electoral district of Malabar North, is our seasoned politician, a teacher. Let us celebrate Lynette Ramcharan. Our standard bearer for Malabar South, again, a corporate officer by profession. Let's welcome our candidate for Malabar South, Jocelyn Warren. A new face on the block, a proud business owner. He holds a bachelor's degree in business administration. Let us welcome Jovan Roberts for the Tunapuna district. Let us now put our hands together for our 7 candidates for the borough of Arima.
Arima, your candidates, make some noise! Brothers and sisters, allow me to continue, and it is only more fire as the night continues. Trinidad and Tobago, the next speaker, continues to fight the fight and continues to champion the cause of the people, no matter where they put this man. Brothers and sisters, his back is broad, so is his biceps. And he could take licks. He could take licks because he is a true-to-form PNM warrior. Brothers and sisters, a seasoned politician, a man who commands the political hustings, a man who really needs no introduction. My political big brother, put your hands together. Is there San Fernando West in the house? Put your hands together for the Member of Parliament and our Minister of Local Government, the none other, Mr. Faris Al-Rawi.
We love you so, we take good care of you. Only the PNM understands. We love you so, we take good care of you. Only the PNM has a plan.
Ladies and gentlemen, good people of Tunapuna who are hosting us here tonight, my political leader, Dr. the Honorable Keith Christopher Rowley, distinguished representatives, I'm starting off of protocol by saying the next representatives for local government, the winning teams before us, the candidates who are working the ground, every last one of you, thank you. I have to go to Lady June, our matriarch of the People's National Movement, as we call her now. I have to go to a man that hasn't aged a day and has bottled the secret, the mighty Eddie Hart. I have to go to the warriors of the PNM, Camille Robinson-Regis, Esmond Forde. I have to go to the warrior that is in the Senate, the lady they afraid, Renuka Sagram Singh Suklal. I have to single out the best Minister of Health in the history of Trinidad and Tobago, in my view, the Honorable Terence Dial Singh. The lady who makes education look easy. She's sweet. She's beautiful. Nian Gadsby Dolly, the doctor, the Honorable. Marvin Gonzalez, what can I say? 250,000 people thank you and Ravi Nanga, chairman of WASA, for a job well done under pressure. Lisa Morris Julian, a lady of history and love. Keith Scotland, the man himself here from Port of Spain South. Ladies and gentlemen, this crowd has in its presence the warrior from Tobago West, my sister, Shamfa Kujo, who can tell you where they live, where they don't live, and how to do it right. This crowd is mesmerizing. It's flowing over with young people, ideas. The country is abuzz with an election. I'm here to talk about choice. You know, it's my style to take it down a little bit into the realm of thinking. So, ladies and gentlemen, join me for a short while on a journey. We're talking through the media tonight to Trinidad, to 14 regional corporations. We come and we say to the population, we, the People's National Movement, we are offering local government reform. Our opponents say no to reform, go back and have more consultation, and then they say somehow they're going to deliver a better performance with what exists right now. Then they say to you, Trinidad bad, flood everywhere, Wassa in trouble. They complain about people. They go to the microphone, they invent, as Camille has given us, a proper history tonight of the words coming out of Kamla Prasad Bises's mouth. They just say anything. But what they say has a common theme. The common theme is that Trinidad is not a real place. It is a bad country. Leave it so and talk more. On Monday of this week, chairman of the Siparia Borough Corporation sat next to a lady named Khadija Amin. Khadija Amin find herself down in Siparia to sit down next to a chairman of a corporation to read out a list of problems in Siparia. She followed a 10-point criticism plan that the UNC made of local government reform. And the 10-point plan that the PNM was called upon to answer by the UNC were as follows: that we are in trouble in this country because the local government reform, according to them, the laws that we have passed according to them, the laws that we want to turn on according to them, will take your property tax and it will do nothing for you. That's point number one. Point number two is they say the local government reform package, which has something called executive authority. What does that mean? The mayor is the boss. The mayor is like a prime minister. The mayor is like a chief secretary. The mayor has elected representatives who form a permanent council. Their only job is to be in that council. They give up their employment elsewhere. They say that that executive council, which will have the power to control and direct a CEO in the same way that Section 85 of the Constitution says a minister can direct a permanent secretary. They say that is a problem. The UNC then goes on to say that there are new responsibilities in the Act that they don't want. Don't put the council to repair schools. Don't put the council to look at play parks. Don't put the council to look at sport and culture. Don't put the council to have an audit committee. They say that's a waste of time. They then say that the Act has no development control. What does that mean? Folks, in this east-west corridor, we are accustomed to the issue of flooding. Development control means that when somebody breaches a river, builds inside of it, reduce the drain to 2 feet, going from 20 feet wide to 2 feet, and you wonder why the water can't pass. Development authority means that you have the power under the Municipal Corporation Act to knock on the door of the person and say, you, sir, show cause why you should not be made to pay for that and fix it now. And if you don't fix it, and you don't make sure your neighbor yard don't flood out, and the child don't get washed away, we will fix it for you, and we will charge you for it. They say that's a waste of time. They say infrastructure works, pothole everywhere, you can't fix it, the law ain't gonna help you. They say that there's no involvement of civil society. It's just the majority who win, running the corporation, and nobody has insight. They say that disaster management units are disorganized. That in the middle of a flood, you will have no assistance, you'll have no help, because everything just bad. And lastly, they say there are no regional development plans. So tonight, that's their 10 points as to why we should stop, do not turn on reform, leave it as it is, and according to them, all hail Kamla Prasad Bisesa, SC and MP. So SC, A, MP. All hail that lady and leave it just so. It didn't stop there. Monday, the chairman of the Siparia Corporation holds a press conference sitting right next to a lady named Khadija Amin, a lady who is incapable of smiling, of bringing a positive word in some instances, a lady that stood there and said everything that is bad in this country, and the chairman said a few things that I want to put on the record tonight. He said, the Siparia Corporation don't know if they are borough. The minister had to tell them there's a borough before they could be a borough because they want to be a borough so they could spend $2 million to change sign. He then said they have insufficient functioning elevators, faulty air conditioning in the market, they ain't get releases, and he say potential misuse, according to the report that I have, of taxpayer money for campaign purposes by Faris Al-Rawi and the PNM. Mark a X on that, because I'm coming back to that. He said, Siparia Corporation cannot function because they have big issues between the CEO, that's the executive, and the administration. He complained that the CEO unwilling to follow instructions. They can't get the job done. The CEO sabotaging the work. He says they have equipment and machinery issues, blocked drains and rivers, lack of response by the ministry, delays in vehicle repairs, insufficient tools and equipment, increased demands, hiring concerns. And then he says, importantly, there should be focus on transparent and proper conduct of business. There must be a prevention of the CEO from acting independently, and that we should halt all emergency works until after the election. So I told you the 10-point criticism. I tell you what this chairman and Khadija Amin had to say. Now let me connect the dots and answer. The local government reform bill is about transforming in a radical way the way we do business. And the way that we do business is to say, take money from the government that you get in the parliament, it's called an appropriation, you get it in the budget every year, supplement it with your residential property taxes, which will be $1 a day, $2 a day, $3 a day. If you have a mansion, $10 a day. And have control over your CEO, put in place an executive council that is full-time, bring the civil society into the audit committee, so when you're spending money, you have to talk in front of the people in an audit committee where the chairman of the audit committee is a member of the opposition. You hear what I'm telling you? We then say, take your municipal police, have your city, your borough, your municipal corporation with your municipal police, use your Evidence Act, CCTV evidence to capture people, to have the recording speak, as opposed to having something else where the witness has to go himself and say, that's the man. I see Eddie Hart. People are afraid. In this local government reform package, we say give power with transparency and accountability. Now, I told you mark a spot on the financing. For the record, I want to remind that in the budget this year and in the midterm supplementation, I went on record and I gave the percentage increase applied to every single one of the 14 corporations. Not San Fernando, not Tunapuna, not Arima, but including Siparia, Pinaldebe, Princestown. We then went so far as to publish it, share it with the media, and every single corporation received increases. But for the record, I want to read it. Port of Spain received 129% more money. San Fernando, 234%. Arima, 129%. Point Fortin, 109%. Chaguanas, 105%. And I'll go 112%, 110%, 132%, 162%, 110%, 117%, 114%, 114%, 117%, 114%. And the number that you saw that stand out there was where we had tabulated back pay to be paid. So it wasn't as if money was going to go into corporations. As I can tell you now, as the Port of Spain City Corporation and as the San Fernando City Corporation and at Port of Spain right now, they are writing the back pay checks right now to make sure that the amalgamated union workers get their payments right now. The third tranche to be paid right now, they are saying only the PNM get more money. Let me put it on record. Pinaldebe in 2021 got $9.3 million. Pinaldebe under the PNM got $26.2 million this year. Siparia got $10.9 million in 2021. Siparia got $44 million this year. Now we as a government, in promoting local government reform, we are saying not give the red corporation the power and don't give the yellow corporation the power. Nowhere in the law does it say the law only applies to the PNM. We say that it applies to every single corporation, even where we don't have one seat in the corporation. And in treating with that kind of transparent result, we are being told by the UNC, don't vote for that. They realize that they lost the war on property tax. Because people in flood zones now realize, if I want to get my flooding solved, I want to get my pavement fixed, I want my schools fixed. People in this country are not stupid, you know. We, the people of this country, know if you show me how you're using my dollar in a transparent way, I go pay for it. But Dr. Rowley didn't stop there. The Prime Minister of the country took a very difficult decision because he insisted it had to happen. And he proclaimed the Public Procurement Act. And therefore he said to all of Trinidad and Tobago, feel free to challenge any public procurement. Feel free to go to court if you want to. Feel free to get answers if you want to, and do it now. Does that sound like a government that is afraid of inspection? What else did Dr. Rowley say to us? Dr. Rowley said to us, in our local government reform package, I want you to make sure that the people are part of the process. And he insisted, and we complied, in continuing the work which began under Mrs. Manning and others. And we took forward 1.1 million contacts, decades of consultation, joint select committee, laws under transparency, and put all of that together in an act. But the UNC comes to tell us, actually, they come to admit to us that they really want the law changed. Because if you listen to what the CEO issue coming from the mouth of the chairman in Siparia says, he's really acknowledging that he wants the mayor to have control over the CEO. He's really acknowledging that the corporation should have the power to hire and discipline and treat with their own workers, which is what the law says. He is really saying, give us more money to do local work, but he's not telling you how. And Mrs. Prasad Bisesa does not tell you how. And Khadija Amin don't tell you how. They just tell you, forget property tax, it's evil. But as that argument fell flat, poof, the magic came out. Inheritance tax. Now, I want to say something. Who is that designed to affect? Why would Mrs. Prasad Bisesa tell such a bold-faced untruth? You know what it is? It's called fair. Because they know everybody in this country cherishes their property that they save for, they mortgage for, they pay off for, they want to leave for their child, so they want to lie and tell you 25% of that going to the government. And I can tell you, as a member of the cabinet, as the chairman of the Legislative Review Committee, that is absolute hogwash. It is untrue. It is designed to frighten people with a naked lie. But permit me to turn very quickly to the issue of crime and security in local government. This country is dealing with a situation of crime and security. These are the issues. I will say from the platform tonight, last week, my mother-in-law, my father-in-law, elderly folks, they were held up at gunpoint. They were relieved of their items right in their yard. But I want to tell you what happened after that. After that, a report was made to the police. Because CCTV evidence is admissible in a court of law, the cameras along the neighborhood that caught the license plates were able to be used to track vehicles. Because of the technology at TSTT, and Digicel and the Telecoms Authority, phone tracing for stolen phone is possible. And the hardworking police at Four Roads said to me, They have solved many of these home invasion issues, but people are afraid to do the final step. And I would like to say to every person in this country who is afraid of taking the final step, which is to put people away by evidence, your government, and when I was Attorney General, we amended the Evidence Act so that CCTV evidence could speak for you and you could stay quiet. Your Minister of National Security, Fitzgerald Ethelbert Hines, and I've worked with many ministers of national security, I can tell you, he's one of the hardest working ministers of national security I have come across. And he is carrying the final leg of the race with the baton to turn on the CCTV cameras all over this country so that evidence could speak from a camera in a court of law, so we can tie that into the motor vehicle records, which we digitized, where we could trace vehicles and trace owners and know who they are. And we could tie it into criminality by going to a public registry, like the company's registry, where you have to declare the beneficial owners, so you know who really is handling the story or not. All of these pieces of the puzzle are right there to connect. And what the UNC is telling you to do, they recognize that in a 100-meter race that we are running, on many of these issues, local government reform, crime and security, we have run a brisk 99. But I want to stop you on the finish line and say, don't run the final 1 meter. Today you will see in the papers stories, allegations of criminality in CPEP. I can tell you from the initial reports coming back to me, the CPEP company hires 240 odd contractors. That company only does business with limited liability companies. You cannot subcontract a contract without breaching the contract. All of the company's records are public records in the company's registry. You could search the owner and name of any company. And by putting the laws that we did and putting the contracts that we did, we will have the evidence as to whether something is true or not. But they will never tell you that. You see, in following the money, which is what our government did, and for the 7 years that I was there assisting in a different way, it was the main target that I was on. Follow the money. Follow cash, follow business, follow land. And it is that same combination that exists in local government, in sport, in digital transformation. It's a brisk 99 meters we have run in a 100 meter. So ladies and gentlemen, local government reform is real. It affects you, it affects me, it affects everybody. It touches on management, accountability, transparency. It touches on our lives, crime, security, policing, public health. They don't want that because they have said so. So what are you voting for when the UNC comes to tell you, come and vote? As I wrap up, I left San Fernando. I see Jerlene John. I see Naked. I see about 4, 5, 6 MPs walking San Fernando, busy, up, down, up, down. I spot a fella in a yellow shirt. I say, boss, that's you? He say, boss, don't worry now. I get a little thing. I say, well, boy, take everything. Take it all. He said, don't sweat. He raised up his shirt. He have a red shirt underneath. A yellow shirt over. He said, well, listen now. We just only see them every 3 years or 5 years. So we take it all. So, Camille, it's not by mistake that they, under Kamla Prasad-Bissessar, put a school on top of a rum shop. The UNC headquarters in San Fernando was on top of a bar. The headquarters was on top of Rising Star. Don't be fooled. There's no logic. There's no rhythm. There's no rhyme. The choice is whether you want to continue with progress, you want to finish the 100 meters race, you want a prime minister who will unify CARICOM as a single fighting bloc, where our voices are put together as one stronger. If CARICOM is stronger, they have hope for the West Indies cricket team. God help us. But what I could tell you, put your mind and think about the issues. Are you for or against local government reform? If you ask them a question on facts, they can't give it to you. I heard an expression as I end now. I heard an expression to describe what the UNC must face on August 14th. Drama them. Drama them. Let them understand we want to give more jobs. We want local government to work. We want every young man who wants to work and young lady who wants to work to give a turn at procurement and management of services right where you live. We want jobs, we want water, we want schools, we want roads, and the only way to do that is with the PNM. Great is the PNM. Great is the PNM, and we shall and will prevail. Thank you.
We love you so, we take good care of you. Only the PNM.
Come on, we could do better than that.
We love you so, we take good care of you.
Brothers and sisters, allow me to acknowledge briefly the acting principal of Hillview College who have allowed us to use this auditorium tonight. Let us give the acting principal and the staff of Hillview College a round of applause. So we have reached the moment where I'm sure all of Trinidad and Tobago and all of you gathered here tonight have been waiting for. You know, Trinidad and Tobago, yesterday I turned 41. Yes, I'm no spring chicken. I'm an old woman now. But I will say this to you. You know, it is around birthday times. We do a lot of self-introspection. We question decisions we made in our life. And generally, it's around birthday times we do a lot of self-analysis. And you know, Trinidad and Tobago, brothers and sisters who are paying attention, there's one decision in particular that I made in my life which I have absolutely no regret about. And that decision, brothers and sisters, was when I took and when I listened to the call of our next speaker. That call that he made in 2019 in a local government platform to all the young people of Trinidad and Tobago to take social responsibility for this country. Brothers and sisters, to this date, I do not and have never regretted answering to that call. That call which is also a call to you, the young people of Trinidad and Tobago, who are paying attention to this political meeting tonight. Brothers and sisters, Matthew 22:14 says, and I ask you to listen carefully. It says, many are called, but few are chosen. Many are called, but few are chosen. And I believe from the very core of my being that the next speaker has been chosen to lead Trinidad and Tobago. And since 2015, he has been doing so. Trinidad and Tobago, brothers and sisters, the young voters, the undecided voters, you deserve, and I will tell you what you deserve. You deserve the right leader who is leading the right team, the right candidates with the right reasons, which is to reform your communities, which is to reform local government. Brothers and sisters, so right now, at this right time, I ask you to stand as we welcome our leader phenomenal, our political leader who will lead his 141 warriors to victory. Put your hands together, Trinidad and Tobago, as we welcome Dr. the Honorable Keith Christopher Rowley.
Somebody touch me, somebody touch me, somebody touch my soul. Yeah. Somebody praise me, Jesus, somebody touch my soul. Somebody touch me. Somebody touch me. Somebody touch my soul.
Who, me?
While I was praying. Thank you very much, Arouca. Thank you very much, Tunapuna. Tonight I recognize once again the lady who never misses a meeting. Follow her and you end up in a PNM meeting. Mrs. Joan Yule Williams, HR. Executive members of the People's National Movement, my cabinet colleagues, my parliamentary colleagues, all. But most importantly tonight, I want to salute our standard bearers from Tunapuna, Piako, and the Rima. Because you are going out there to carry the message of the PNM and the hope of Trinidad and Tobago. Ladies and gentlemen, visitors, all, our country is not perfect. Our individual bodies are not perfect. But if you have a toothache, real toothache, and you have a good friend, or even a concerned citizen in your presence, and they're rushing you to the doctor, to treatment. And then you got to the point, and you turn up at the cardiologist. And they say, I'll bring you. He will fix you. Even with the toothache, you have to ask, what kind of fool is this? You don't go to a cardiologist for a toothache. And if you have a fracture, having fallen, and they take you to the eye specialist, no matter how qualified the eye specialist is in eyes, you need somebody to deal with the fractured arm and to put it in a cast. So all these people who are out there making a lot of noise and confusing this country and talking about what they're going to do on the 14th and what they're going to do and why they're going to do it, I want to remind them all that this is the local government election. And if you have nothing to contribute to local government and its discourse, stop fooling people that you're going to move government after August 14th. It doesn't matter what happened on August 14th. The government of Trinidad and Tobago on the 15th is the People's National Movement. And you see, it is not by accident that they're all focusing on the national issues which they think are national concerns that they could stir up some support over. You know why? Because the People's National Movement government of Trinidad and Tobago is satisfying the needs of the wider population of Trinidad and Tobago. Here it is. We are dealing in this short season with the issue of local government, and I'll come back to that in a little while. But you know, they would have easily been talking about the economy. Remember how many years, how many months, all they were saying, it collapsed, it collapsed. All they could have said about our economy, difficult as it is, even as we were struggling to pay public servants, even as the economy had shut right down, there was a time in this country, in the not too distant past, when the only part of the country that was operating was the energy sector, because as a result of COVID, we had to shut everything down. And as for prices, prices came right down. Oil price came down to zero on one day. It was minus $2. People who were handling oil were paying people to take oil out of their storage at $2 per barrel. That was our time. And in that scenario, what were they saying? That it collapsed. The economy collapsed. For months, we had to find money to pay the business owners to keep their workers getting an income. We kept all our public servants on the payroll, every teacher, every gazetted public servant, and we paid for food to come into your house when you didn't have money to buy it. This government did that. And all they could have said, is that ahead of us was collapse. We borrowed $13 billion to be able to do that. And they said, public debt, we're in the debt trap, and the country is going to go to hell. Ladies and gentlemen, this PNM government, in the most difficult of times, we had faith in our country, we had faith in our people, even when the overdraft reached 98%. We had faith that we were taking the best option available. And ladies and gentlemen, this election is taking place, and they can't come out and talk about the economy because we have made significant progress. Notwithstanding their bad mouthing and the truckload of negatives, spit and bile, today our economy is better than it was when we entered the period in 2021. And against that background, you would see the largest union, I think is the PSA now, public servants going to the Privy Council. The government has offered them 4% for the years that have passed in great difficulty, when our revenues fell from 60 billion down to 43 and lower. We offered 40% immediately and said, let us begin to negotiate the next 3 years and get on that term, because as we improve our economy, we are expecting and hoping to be in a better position to give public servants a better offer for the next triennium. The local judge say, no. Next judge, appeal court, you lost. You want to go by the Englishman, because you're hoping the Englishman will tell us what to do here in Trinidad and Tobago. Let me say something to all public servants tonight. Observe that notwithstanding the low offer, what the country could afford and still remain in an even keel, all those who are demanding more and more from less and less, public servants, if a government comes into office, offer and give you more than the country could afford, the only way that could be managed is to cut employment in the public service. That's the only way. It's the only way. But this government from day one said that we are not, as they were predicting, that we'll end up at the IMF. Many of them who are outside now looking to vote, they were telling you that we are going to end up at the IMF. And we'll have IMF prescriptions in Trinidad and Tobago with IMF telling us what to do. We said no. We have faith in ourselves, in our country, in our economy, and in our ability in the world. And we will make our own prescriptions and apply them, even though in instances they might not be as palatable as they should be. But the bottom line is, it will be in the best interest of the people of Trinidad and Tobago. And we've done that. We've done that. And only this week, contrary to what they were predicting when they were predicting their collapse, some of them can't even pronounce the word collapse, collapse, collapse. When they were predicting collapse, this week, coming from a negative outlook, from the most difficult of days, Moody's has said that Trinidad and Tobago is going in the right direction. Our outlook is positive, and we can look forward to a downgrade, to an upgrade. To an upgrade, we can look forward to an upgrade. And that is why, since they are campaigning for a general election, you're not seeing any of them raising the economy and its rating as an issue, because there's no negative there for them to beat. Our economy is doing better than most. Better than most. And of course, finance. I told you how much we borrowed, where the overdraft was at 90-odd%. We have handled the economy in a particular way, and we have now brought the overdraft down to under 50%, giving the government some borrowing room. And we have got revenues a little more than we anticipated. I tell you what, it didn't happen by accident. It didn't happen by accident. When I called the country to order at the Hyatt Hotel and said, this government will go and talk to the oil companies and say to them that your shareholders cannot be having increased profits while our shareholders facing destitution. They said, oh, we're interfering with contracts and we'll chase away foreign investment and it's bad for the country. As a result of those discussions that I have led, talking to oil companies, the biggest part of our economy and our earnings, today we are earning billions more that we would not have had under the same contracts. Under the same contracts. You heard Minister Al-Rawi just told you about more money being allocated to local government. Where did more money came from? We're producing less oil and less gas. But more money was available because the earning formula was changed as a result of this government's intervention. And the people who had nothing to say about that. But let me remind you all, when I came into office as Prime Minister, within 2 weeks, BP came to me to tell me and to show me what the UNC had done or what they have given BP. And there was no taxes to be had until 2024. You remember that? That was 2015. And BP was telling me there are no taxes to be had, the largest gas producer in the country. And I said to BP, not on your Nelly. We are going to change that because the people of Trinidad and Tobago have an interest in that business. And we've changed it. And that is how our earnings have improved considerably, even as our volumes have gone down and the market is difficult. But they have a lot to say about the PNM. They can't engage us on the fact that we had a check to pay $850 million US. August 2018, we couldn't pay it. We took action to ensure that the country wasn't bankrupted. And as a result of that, today we have 2 profitable companies and the refinery that is closed down because we don't have any oil to refine in there. But they were saying, leave it so. It was bad for politics, but we know it was better for the country. Today, Heritage is making billions. You all remember the night when I offered Petrotrin workers an employee stock ownership in the Heritage company that was just formed? What percentage would the government have given them? 10%? 20%? 25%? 30%? I don't know. But the government was prepared to give the employees. They were led away by other leaders. Today, Heritage is making $1 billion profit a year. Suppose those workers were encouraged to take 10, 15, 20% of that per year. And those are the leaders who are still out there bad-mouthing the PNM. Para is making $270 million profit per year supplying the fuel. So even though we're not producing the fuel at a refinery, in handling the fuel, that you never were short of a profit. So you move from bankruptcy facing you to service $850 million US, which Heritage is doing. And as a result of the Minister of Finance not being able to do that and steering the country away from that, we could do other things. They bad talking the PNM. And of course, education. There were some people when we said we'll reopen schools after COVID, they didn't want school to reopen. Exams to be had. We as government taking blows from people saying the exams should not take place. Last week, the Minister of Education could announce our children did their exams and they did far better than last year and they keep on doing better. Going in the right direction. The public service from that difficult period that all of us experienced, life and death, not a single gazetted public servant in this country lost his or her job. And more than that, there was never a month end when they were not paid and paid on time. But you're listening to people bad-mouthing the PNM. People who never manage a foul coup, never manage a parlor, can't manage their own life, disgraceful in their own conduct, offering themselves to run the country, and you telling me about you going to vote for them because you're tired of the PNM? This PNM is what stood between you and disaster and now stand between you and them. That's what it is. When the head of the World Health Organization come into this country in person and say that this country handled the pandemic well because the government did well, it wouldn't sit well with them. Because as far as they're concerned, we were working with doctors and nurses, they were carrying us to the courthouse. 65 times. Lying that people were dying in the hospital and doctors were hiding the bodies. Run out front when the first person died from COVID, even before the family could have been told. They're so glad to report COVID death. It was the opposition leader that told this country that somebody had died from COVID. They want to be out front, carrying bad news, the tongue crier that they are. But we stood up, fought the virus, managed our country, managed disdain, managed undermining, and at the end of it all, we are one of those countries that came out better than many. Our national airline, for a long period of time, the country was closed, no transportation. We held our national airline together. The day the border was opened, Carl was able to start flying and has gone on to continue to provide us to the National Air Service. What was the story? What would they have done differently? They'd have continued to thief public money, give their friends hundreds of millions of dollars, and there's a cohort of people in this country who are very convenient. They want to know how much you spend on a CARICOM meeting, but they have no interest in wanting to know why SIS left this country on election day when the results were known and never came back. $1 billion rotting down in the sea lots right now. $1 billion of a contract awarded when another company that was pre-qualified and was $400 million less didn't get the contract under the Kamla Prasad business government. They gave it to SIS, and they know what they had done. So as soon as they lost the election, the next day, SIS left this country and never looked back. Understand? We built the Quebec overpass for $219 million. After we canceled the arrangement, it was going to be built for $500 million. Nobody wants to know. None of them want to know who was getting the extra $300 million. They didn't want to know that, but coming to ask now how much it cost. So ladies and gentlemen, agriculture. Last week we had something happen in this country as part of our agricultural program. As a result of the combination of Guyana and Trinidad and Tobago working together, not talking together, working together to initiate increased activity and rejuvenation of the agricultural sector in Trinidad and to expand it in Guyana. 200,000 pounds? 200,000 pounds of rice came into this country. It's not rice to eat. That was rice to plant. Rice seeds, where we are restarting the rice industry in this country in a serious way. 3,000 acres. 3,000 acres. The seeds came in last week, and the very day it came in, the opposition leader woke up from the night before and asking, what has CARICOM done about our food supplies? You all remember we had the CARICOM initiative on food supply security in Guyana, and I went to Guyana, traveled all the way down to Roraima on the Brazilian border, hands-on with my colleague, President of Guyana, and we took decisions there, and we are acting on those decisions. When it was Trinidad's turn the following year, to keep the momentum going, we had our expo here to revitalize our farmers here and introduce this new initiative and this new energy into agriculture. The opposition absolutely wanted no part of it. As a matter of fact, one of their councillors came to the opening. He was ostracized and is today no longer in the UNC. This is a document that I hold up to the media. And I want to ask the media, it is useful if you read this and carry some of it, even in summary, to the people of Trinidad and Tobago. So when they hear the opposition leader or anybody else trying to mislead you that all fall down in your country on the context of food supply, from crisis to opportunity, an innovative approach to food security in the Caribbean region, February 2023. This is the documentation of what we are doing, Trinidad and Tobago and Guyana, arising out of the CARICOM. arising out of the CARICOM initiative. So when the opposition leader have nothing to talk, when she get up and she blink 3-4 times and asking about CARICOM, what is CARICOM doing? This is what CARICOM is involved in right now. The Minister of Youth Development in Trinidad and his colleague in Guyana, we have thousands of young people who are currently engaged in a number of agricultural initiatives, creating new farmers out of people who were not farmers in Trinidad and Tobago. One of the biggest opposition coming from the UNC is the program that we have in here and in Trinidad, where we are training young people, some of them from the East-West corridor, some from Central, some from South, to become farmers. They're getting the training and they are given land to go on with government support. The opposition is opposing that. As I speak to you now, today I receive a report on what is happening with the Shade House project in Chagaramas, where another batch of young people are being trained to produce agricultural food under controlled conditions, again with the support of the government of Guyana. And you're getting them to ask, what is happening? If you don't know what is happening, go back to bed, drink your rum and go back to bed. You see, when we came into office, the vast majority of the Point Lisa's contracts for those companies in Point Lisa's had come to the end of their life, 25 years, 20-year contracts. The UNC did not negotiate a single contract renewal, not one. Many of those billion-dollar companies were on month-to-month arrangements. We all believe that? It took this government appointing Stuart Young as Minister in the Office of the Prime Minister and as Minister of Energy. I can tell you today, we have renegotiated every single one of those contracts, every one. And more than that, because of their misbehavior in the sector, some companies had claims against the state to the tune of $2.5 billion. We have negotiated away all of that, less about 500 million. Right? The one contract that they did was the CGCL plant down in Labrie. You know what that contract said? That in an environment of shortage of gas, that new company will get the gas. And at a price that is lower than NGC is paying. In other words, you will subsidize a foreign company. It had a small shareholding by NGC and by Neil and Massey. But the rest of it, foreign. And you will give them gas at a lower price than you contracted to pay BP and Shell. That was them. And as a result of having done that, it triggered a clause in the other contracts at Point Lisa's where you're now liable for gas that they're not getting. And that's how the debt was run up. As I talk to you now, we are negotiating with the Chinese who have us over arbitration. $300 million they're claiming because the UNC shut down the aluminum project and walk away. And you know, while all this is on our back as a people, the very people who are responsible for that are coming in front of you, the same people, and saying, elect me because I am your salvation, I am your savior. As if you have calabash got in your head and you forget them. You forgot what they've done in this country, so there's an election now, and they're sure they're going to win. Well, the only thing they're sure of is that you're stupid. That's the only thing they're sure of. And they're waiting until the 14th, the night of the 14th of December, right, to determine that it is so. People of Trinidad and Tobago, you don't need anybody to come and tell you where you've been or who is acting in your interests. You don't need that. You know, I'm hearing them now. We have held our position. All of these areas, whether it's education, whether it's health, whether it's energy, we have held our areas, our interests, and the people's interests have prevailed, and those are not areas that they could campaign on now. And the issue in front of us now is local government. It's not today's issue. This is something that we've worked on for years. There was a time, and even now, there are people saying that the PNM has no interest in local government reform because the PNM is a government that like to hold on to central power, and the PNM is a what do you call it? Doctor politics, all kind of nonsense. But the bottom line was that we of the PNM will not bring about local government reform. That's what I was saying while we were preparing, consulting, drawing up programs. You heard tonight about the management system that have to go into local government if you are going to make any significant changes. You heard about the kind of impact it will have. No, they want no part of it. Tonight I saw the little one from Sawa being interviewed. You think about growing here in your chin, you could look intellectual. And telling the country what should happen to solve the country's problems is that the government and the opposition need to work to get together. That sounds good, eh? But the government and the opposition are required to work together. That's a requirement of our governance system. And that working together is in the parliament. It's not in the rum shop or in your political party head office. Balize House is for the PNM. The other places where there's go on top shop, below shop, on top hotel, that is for them. But in the parliament, we are required to work together. So when we eventually, after the years of work on local government, Hazel Manning, Frankie Khan, Ken Valley, these are all ministers who worked on the whole concept of advancing local government to a point where it reached the parliament in a bill called the Miscellaneous Provisions Local Government Reform Bill 2020. 2020. So we know in the parliament, it's in Joint Select Committee, it's now come back to the parliament floor for the people's representatives to take a decision. That is when government and opposition are supposed to work together. And here we go. Absent. Kamla Prasad Bisesa, Rushton Parry, Rai Ragbir, Barry Padarat, Michelle Benjamin, Saddam Hussein, and Anol Ram. They couldn't be bothered to be in the parliament to take the vote as to whether local government reform, the bill that has gone through all those changes, ready for the people's representative to take a vote. So in 2023, we can now move forward with local government reform. They couldn't be bothered to even be in the parliament. So that is 7 of them accounted for. I have 12 more. Of the 12 more, David Lee, Rodney Charles, Khadija Amin, Rujanat Indar Singh, Rudan Munilal, Dinesh Shambali, Lakram Bodo, Vandana Mohit, Devanan Tanku, Anita Haynes, Ravi Ratiram, and Dr. Richard Sicharan. Abstain. 12 of them. Local government reform arrived at the point now where the people's representative will decide, do we leave it so, or do we make changes for the future and for the better? The 19 of them, not a single vote for local government. On that fateful day, 2 of our members were out of the country. One, Minister of Education, Gatsby Dolly, and the other one, Stuart Young, on government business. Thankfully, you gave us 22 seats. So when 2 were out of the country, 20 were in the parliament. And the 20 of them voted for local government reform. That is why, now the bill has passed. The country has been moved with the authority of the parliament with PNM saying that we have boundless faith in our destiny. We have confidence in the people of this country. We believe that the people in the various corporations, the various boroughs, the various cities could look after their affairs and do better under the arrangements of local government reform. So the issue in this election, as it was on this day in the Parliament, the 23rd of May, 2022, on that day, the vote was taken. The UNC voted against local government. The PNM voted for local government. Tonight I'm inviting the country. You have no vote inside the parliament. They had one. That's how they used it. 12 abstentions and 7 absentees, including the leader. You have a vote on August 14th. This same vote is coming to you on August 14th. Do you vote against local government? Do you abstain? Or do you vote for local government reform? That is the issue in this election. That is the issue. It is a singular issue. They want to move the government. Wait until the general election is called. The battle will be joined, and the PNM will be there, mano a mano with you. But this time, it's local government. Take a position on August 14th. You see, we, contrary to what they were saying, we accept that we'll be better off by decentralizing a significant amount of authority from central government in Port-of-Spain to government at the local district to look after you at your doorstep and the issues that confront you out there. They're saying, no, leave it so. No, leave it so. So leave it so. And then what, you get more of the Penal Debe Corporation telling you that they can do nothing in Penal Debe because they don't have diesel to put in the trucks and the equipment to go out and service you. So you can hear more from Sandy Grandi that they can't cut the grass in the playing field. Leave it so. The PNM is saying, no, we can do better than that. We can bring you service under your control. We can have management that does not have the CEO doing what the chairman of Siparia said, which is running the corporation while nobody elected them. You elect local government people, they're going to be an executive with the authority to run your affairs. That is local government reform. So you see, you vote for it if you believe in it, if you believe in yourselves. Or you can follow these people whose record is one that you should stay very far from. Very far. So they don't have anything useful to campaign on. So what do? They cannot engage this PNM on any of the sectors that we're on. So they now resort to lies. Have you all seen the Express on Wednesday, the 12th of July? There's an advertisement at the bottom. It says paid advertisement, right? The first time I heard about an inheritance tax, I heard it from Mrs. Kamla Prasad Bisesa. Not a single person in government, in a radio program, in a TV program, in a column, in an article, in a joke, ever mentioned that. That was never an issue in this country. But they want something to incite people, to make you feel as though you're going to lose something, and therefore Kamla Prasad Bisesa fabricate this monstrous lie that this government is contemplating and is planning to impose an inheritance tax. So when you pass your house or your piece of land to your child or your grandchild, the government will charge them 25% of the value of the land. The UNC sat down in their office and concocted that lie, plain and simple so. Immediately, the Minister of Finance, who is this country's authority on taxes and finance and revenue, came out and said, it is not true. The government has never discussed that. It is not government policy. It forms no part of the program of the PNM. You think they would stop there? Because they have invested in this lie and it is meant to incite the people, they go and pay and put an ad in the newspaper on the lie that they have created, telling them they are bringing 25% inheritance tax. Well, in Parliament, I would have had to say, Mrs. Kamle Prasad Bisesa, you're speaking terminological inexactitudes. You are talking untruths. But in Tunapuna, on this platform, I could say, Mrs. Kamle Prasad Bisesa, you lie. You see, we can stand on our record in any area of governmental activity. What was most important to this country, to me as Prime Minister, I told you about my encounter with BP 2 weeks after I became Prime Minister. And I saw the danger to this country and I took action. I also saw where we in this country, we have plant and equipment in Point Lisas that could handle 4.1 billion cubic feet of gas per day. When we came into office, we were just doing about 3.1 billion, a billion cubic feet less because the gas wasn't available. Our older gas fields, 25 years we're pumping, no new gas is being made. As you're pumping, there's less and less and lower pressure, so your production is less and less. I saw the threat of that. That was 2015, September. As of today, we are now pumping about 2.8 billion with a capacity of 4.1 billion, so I knew we have to find gas. So while we're looking within our border, I look also outside the border. And outside the border, it is the government that acts out there. Inside here, many of you are officers and technicians and engineers, and so you would have what we have in here. But if you're going to look outside, where there's gas next door or even on our border, shared with Venezuela, it's the government that has to deal with that. And the Prime Minister led that charge. I moved immediately to Venezuela to talk about a gas supply for Trinidad and Tobago. When we were to sign the agreement, an agreement which was being signed for the first time in the history of Venezuela, signing an agreement to export its gas to anybody, on this occasion to Trinidad and Tobago, I took a car plane and took a whole media corps to Caracas for that monumental occasion. You know what the local press carried out when you came back? In 2 lines, they mentioned that we signed the agreement. But the biggest picture, the biggest arrangement, is that I was dancing with Maduro, who brought some Better Village type people. And they start to attack. They start to attack the Dragon Dan, the Dragon Field, the Dragon Ding. And if you hear them, you wouldn't think that our very future, that Dragon Field that we want to get our hands on, is 17 kilometers from our nearest platform. You would think that the people of this country will rally with the government and say, yes, Venezuela, we can use that. When the US put sanctions on Venezuela and stopped us in our tracks in 2018, some of them celebrated. As a matter of fact, inside of Venezuela, there was difficulty with Venezuela's internal politics. It's not our doing. But the US decided that they will pick a president for Venezuela, and that president is President Guaido. The Trinidad and Tobago opposition undermined every action of the government of Trinidad and Tobago supporting President Guaido. They went as far as to lie on Paria and say Paria is breaking sanction by bringing fuel and sending it to Venezuela. You remember that? They wrote the U.S. Embassy asking the U.S. Embassy to put sanction on Rowley and Stuart Young. You remember that? I am in America doing my medical. I'm home in my cousin's house in California. I see in Trinidad information on social media where I am under U.S. authorities talking to the U.S. because I am laundering money in America. That is the kind of story that the UNC put out there. And of course, they did everything possible to damage the relationship between Trinidad and Tobago and the United States. I can tell you they failed, and they have failed miserably. Last week, the largest delegation that left America this year to go anywhere came to Trinidad and Tobago. Led by the Secretary of State and a bipartisan group, which also had, in this congressional group, the minority leader in the House. came to Trinidad and Tobago to join us in celebration of the 50th anniversary of CARICOM. I could tell you, when I became Prime Minister, at my first meeting in Guyana, I looked at the agenda. Knowing that the Caribbean market is so important to Trinidad and Tobago, my eyes went straight to the agenda to see what is going to be there with respect to Caribbean markets and marketing. And I realized that the single market and economy was not on the agenda. I immediately inquired, why is that so? And they said at the last meeting, a decision was taken to remove the CSME from the CARICOM agenda. I said, how could Trinidad and Tobago agree to that? They said, well, Trinidad and Tobago was not here, so the decision was taken in the absence of Trinidad and Tobago. When I checked and inquired, you know what happened? That very day when that happened in Guyana, the UNC under Mrs. Kamla Prasad-Bissessa was in Tobago at the Cocoa Reef Hotel drinking and falling down. Would you believe that? Would you believe that? I then had to go and take steps to put that back on the agenda. How could we not have efforts being made to protect and to grow the single market and economy? Every factory in Trinidad, every job in every factory is dependent on our largest market, which is CARICOM for manufactured goods. And these people are still around, washing them out on the PNM. We got it back on the agenda, and Trinidad and Tobago took leadership of it. We brought CARICOM to the Hilton Hotel for 2 days to work on what eventually became the St. Anne's Accord, where every CARICOM country signed on to the progress of the CSME. Last week, we met here in Trinidad, and CARICOM took a decision for free movement of people throughout the CARICOM. I'm putting you on notice now. It's only a matter of time before the UNC begin to object to that. I'm putting you on notice now. Because they've said it very clearly. They will support nothing that the government does. Nothing. Tim Gopi Singh is on record. Go and check the record and see how many times he is speaking for the UNC and others saying they will support nothing, and that has been their habit. Look, they love crime. They love crime. So anything that the government try to do that may have the effect of ameliorating or eliminating the effects of criminals in our society, they're opposing it where they could oppose it. When the anti-gang bill was in the parliament, the PNM was so effective in the committee on helping them to pass the law. Check the Hansard and you'll see Mrs. Kamla Prasad-Bissessa saying thanks to Marlene MacDonald and Colin Imbot for the input that they made in that committee. But of course, by the time it came to a vote, when they were out of office, they will not vote for anti-gang. And they voted down the bill because it requires special majority. They voted it down. It was when there was a public outcry against what they had done that they came and asked the government to waive the standing order and bring the bill back to the parliament for them to vote for it. And for them to vote for it, we had to take out all the teeth. So it's the gum that left there. And if you hear them now, as they count every murder, every criminal outrage, they're excited about it to mention it. And they want me to spend all my time dealing with that. Well, we have people in the government dealing with that. And the government's response to crime and criminality on the street and near your home, it has to be done through our security services. I can't take up the phone and even call the commissioner of police and say, do this or do that. You know why? That is interference. Because the commissioner of police is independent. That's what it is. Hold me responsible. But the plan is, hold the government responsible, but give the government no authority. That is why you were hearing them talking about this panacea called the procurement legislation. When we came in, we said this law, even though it's passed in the parliament, it has serious flaws. And we went to the parliament twice in trying to refine the law. We went twice to amend it to make it more usable, and more practical. Every time we go to the parliament to do that, we are accused of watering down the law, up to the point where they accused me as Prime Minister of not wanting to have procurement legislation, as if we don't have any. We still have Centers Board actors in place. And of course, because we want to have our way in awarding contracts and whatever, all of a sudden they're concerned about awarding contracts because they expect us to behave the way they behave. So the law, there was a clamor. Proclaim the law, proclaim the law, proclaim the law. I am in the parliament telling the cabinet, let us proceed. At one point I gave March of the year as to when it was going to be proclaimed. We still couldn't get it to a point where we think it was workable. But in the end, I could tell you in response largely to public demand, we said we'll proclaim it. But we know that we have to come back to the parliament to make certain adjustments. One of the adjustments we have to make, which come up to us starkly now, the law is proclaimed, the law is in place. You cannot now do any business with anybody inside of 2 months, in most cases. Because if you want to do any business with big, medium, or small contractor, you have to go out for tender, either sole or selective or open, and then you have to wait for a month for people to respond. And then you have to go through 2 processes of evaluation and, what's the other one? And advisory committee. And that does not distinguish between a bale of toilet paper, a case of water, and a highway. Now, fellow citizens, surely that is not the law that we really want. The other day, we wanted to buy a couple dozen flowers like that from a company to put in front of the diplomatic center to prepare it for our guests. You cannot do that because the process doesn't allow you to do it within 2 to 3 weeks. And of course, the person you want it from, like most small business and many medium business in the period, have not been registered. Today, the law is, unless you are registered with the procurement depository, and unless you have your tax certificate up to date, you cannot do business with the state, including your NIS certificate, which expires in 30 days, of course. But the procedure is about 50 or 60 days. So even if I just start out with a certificate from NIS that is good, it expires before the end of the tender period. Now, what kind of situation is that? We have to come back to the parliament to amend it. In the meantime, there's a clause in the law that says that in situations like where exigencies demand that you act, but you don't have that time period to do what you need to do, like when the water pipe broke the other night up the road, the Minister of Finance could grant an exemption to allow you to do it. Now, that is the law. But the law has another part that says, if you want to grant that exemption, you have to come to the parliament for it to be debated and voted upon. So I discovered that the toilet had no paper. And we need a bale of paper. It's a big ministry. And of course, it will take 2 months for that contract to be awarded. But in the meantime, in the 2 months period, I presume you could bring a roll of paper from home. But that is only toilet paper. There are other things you can't bring from home. And the bottom line is, the opposition is saying that the Minister of Government, who got his job by swearing to an oath of office and being elected by Diego Martin, Northeast, and the country to represent you, is not good enough to represent you to buy a bale of toilet paper because he's a thief and he must go through this process of 2 months to acquire it. Understand that? But they very well know what they're doing, you know. They know if we do not amend the law to fix that and to put sensible arrangements in place, it will grind the government to a halt. They know that, and that is what they want. But I can say to Trinidad and Tobago today, I have sworn an oath of office to act without fear or favor, without malice or ill will, and to uphold the laws of Trinidad and Tobago. And where the interests of the people of Trinidad and Tobago are involved, it is that oath that controls my conduct. You know, here the opposition leader is going to lead the charge because there's an error in the law, and they're going to go to court because they love the courthouse, eh? They're going to the court because this error in the law has caused the Minister of Finance to use the law. Hear it, eh? Error in the law caused the Minister of Finance to use the law to give an exemption so that goods and services could have been procured in time for the handling of our recent developments here at CARICOM. Understand? So we want to get some hotel rooms. You need 2 months of head time for that. And we should have known that we need it because it's 50th anniversary, so we had 50 years to prepare. That is the kind of nonsense that passes in this country. And of course, if the opinion is from one lawyer that it is doable, and from another lawyer that is an error, and you want to go to the court for the court to clarify it, no problem, we are a civilized country, the court will rule. But in the meantime, the government has sought advice and deeper advice. And that arrangement cannot be allowed to stand because the government will not be able to function. Because what happened in the parliament is that those kinds of situations where under normal circumstances a permanent secretary with $1 million limit as to what they could approve would have handled all those things. Now, you want to buy some doubles for lunch, you want to buy toilet paper, you want to fix a WASA 24-inch main, is the same process. And of course, because in the parliament, in seeking to go that way, the law was passed with something called an affirmative action is required, meaning that it must be voted upon and carried by the majority. Now, is the majority already the government? If we're not the majority, we can't be the government. So coming to the parliament to get the majority to vote on it is just to come to parliament to waste parliament's time in most instances. If I come to parliament to talk about getting toilet paper and drinking water in a company, and the majority is going to vote for it, it's the government's majority. But you don't want to give any authority. As a matter of fact, in recent years, you have seen the trend. The minute you go to parliament with a bill and it has any authority for a minister, that is the big point of debate. No. You can't give the minister that. You can't give the minister that. But you could give any faceless, nameless person. Any faceless, nameless person you could give the authority. But you must hold the minister accountable. Hold the government accountable. While other people have the authority. That's where we're heading. But I'm saying, not all of us are thieves and scamps. We not to wear their corn in their bushel. You have elected people to represent you. You give them authority and you hold them accountable in the normal, sensible way. So the government has realized that there is what they are now calling an error in the law. And we now realize that we have government to run in the days and weeks and months ahead. So we now know exactly what the government has to do because we are a sensible, responsible government. And as a result of that, today I have directed the leader of government business to recall the parliament on Wednesday of next week. And based on the experiences that we have had and the grinding to a halt that they intend to come in the country, it ain't gonna happen. The government will go to the parliament and we will use the majority that you gave us and we're going to make sensible amendments to the law so that the law can function in the interest of the people of Trinidad and Tobago. And we are not afraid of the parliament, neither are we afraid of the courthouse. What we are afraid of is being like them. My memory reminds me of the day when we had to go to parliament in a similar way, or worse. And it wasn't to go to amend an error in the law about toilet paper and water and hotel and transportation and so on. It was to reverse Section 34. You all remember that? We had to go to parliament, was that Saturday? It was a weekday. Because Section 34 was no error. It was a planned assault on our Constitution to create a loophole for criminals to escape the court. Remember that? And they led it deceptively, got it passed in the parliament, and when there was public outcry, I led a march from downtown Port of Spain to President House. 25,000 people in that march against Section 34. They had to come to the parliament the next day and reverse the law. So they know about emergency session. So we go in there to make sure that the law that we have passed can be worked, can be used, so that nonsensical action doesn't take place. We are expecting here very soon the King of the Ashanti for our emancipation. A few days later, we are expecting the Commonwealth Junior Games in Trinidad and Tobago. They are lying in wait saying they're waiting to see how the minister will abuse the law by giving exemption to people to provide goods and services to those two major events. Well, you don't have to wait long. We're going to the parliament on Wednesday, and we'll make appropriate provision for the country to function without your foolishness. And all I'm saying is that we knew all along that this law had some places in it that required attention, and we were saying, let us fix it. We did it twice. And on every occasion, it's misrepresented to the country. Proclaim the law, proclaim the law. We proclaimed it as is where is, and this is the outcome. Well, the government of Trinidad and Tobago, which I lead, with your support, representing you, the government will fix it. The government will fix it. You see, diplomacy. They spend all the time talking about President Guaido. Today, the relationship between the United States and Trinidad and Tobago is at its strongest. Venezuela is there, our closest neighbor. We are still talking to Venezuela about our commercial expectations to access Venezuelan gas. Canada. You all remember there was a time when we could go to Canada and come back as you please? The UNC lost an election. They start to leave to go to Canada, seeking refugee status. The UNC. You all remember that? Trinidad and Tobago people, UNC supporters, go and meet Canadian lawyers and try to use Canada's refugee laws to make themselves refugees to get residential status in Canada, telling lies on this country that our police are turning a blind eye to women being raped in their communities. Remember that story? And they flooded Canada. As a result of that, the Canadians put us on visa for the first time. That was the UNC that caused that. As Prime Minister, I met with Prime Minister Trudeau 3 times on this issue. Both of us became Prime Ministers in the same quarter and met for the first time in Malta. I came in September, and he came in a few days after. We met at the heads of government meeting in Malta, in Valletta. I sat down with him, and it was the first issue we raised. We met again in Barbados. I raised it again. And as CARICOM chairman, I raised it. As a result of that, as he has promised to look at it, we are now having a bit of an opening, and requirements for visa for Canada, we got some relief right now. We got some relief. And of course, as far as they're concerned, we count for nothing. Everything collapsed. After all the attempts to undermine us, home and abroad, Trinidad and Tobago put up a candidate for the presidency of the United Nations, and the world voted unanimously for Trinidad and Tobago. There wasn't a single dissenting voice. And Ambassador Francis will now be the president of the United Nations General Assembly for the next year. And I will go to New York proudly to take my position as Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago with a Trinidad and Tobago citizen in the chair as President of the United Nations General Assembly. Because we believe that we are small, but we are never to be insignificant. But these people believe that all they could do in this country is badmouth you every day from Monday to Friday, stand in the way of every action that is required, have nothing good to say about anything in this country or about anybody. But if we are doing so much better than they are, and all they could do is to lie and create lies to campaign on lies, or to denigrate people. Let me remind you all, there was an election in Tobago 2 Januaries ago. Remember that election? I wasn't a candidate, but I'm leader of the PNM. The Tobago Island Council was fighting against the PDP because our PNM in Tobago is autonomous. I'm there to support them. I represent the PNM leadership. The Monday before election Monday, the UNC, as bedmates of the PDP, decided to damage me because that will somehow influence the voting in Tobago. On the weekend before the election weekend, the same little one from Bisawa, you see his work? He and the UNC decided to raise a scandal because they need a scandal, right? Every time we go into an election, they can't campaign on the issues of governance. They can't campaign on the integrity of the government. They can't campaign on the suitability of the PNM as the best option for the country. So they're looking for a scandal. 2015, it was me and my father's name that they bring to the parliament to accuse me of rape. Remember that story? Kamla Prasad Bisesa. That THA election, they went to the public record and discovered that my wife and I bought a townhouse in Tobago. They created their own scandal. They call it Inez Gate. Remember that? I, out of my own personal savings with my wife, dealing with a seller, bought a unit for 1.2 million. The UNC equating bought and thief, thinking it's the same thing. And they wrote and moved the Integrity Commission to put me under investigation. And from then till last week, I am under all kind of investigation. The Integrity Commission gave me letter, gave me deadline to respond and all of that. And they're on platform, Kamla Prasad Bisesa and Saddam Hussein, trying to give you the impression that I have some scandal to account for and they're behind me with this matter. Well, I'm pleased to announce to you tonight, right, that after all the wasting of time by the Integrity Commission, Saddam and the UNC, the Integrity Commission has finally come to their senses and have written to me telling me that they no longer have any interest in the matter. But it served its purpose. The lie served its purpose. Because election week, they pretended that there was some scandal involving me. And that is their habit. That is their habit. They count for nothing, they want nothing, they offer you nothing, but they want office in this country. But tonight, on a PNM platform, I could tell you, we could contest every election, any election, in any part of this country on our policies, our programs, our record, and our history. And it is because of the things that we, the PNM, do, that you evade all the hardships that they predict for you. Life is not a bed of roses, but we can certainly reduce the thorns in the garden of life for you here in Trinidad and Tobago. Whether it is in education, in health, in the economy, in foreign policy, in energy, it is the PNM that looks out for the people of Trinidad and Tobago. And on this season, with or without them, as long as you vote for the PNM, there will be local government reform. Because we know if we have to rely on them, there's no support to be had. We have to go it alone. And this is not a road that the PNM has not already walked. We walked alone with Unit Trust. We walked alone with FCB. We walked alone with NIB. We walked alone with free secondary education. We walked alone with PAYE. We walked alone with the Caribbean Nation Federation. And I'm telling you, if we have to walk alone, as long as you are walking with us, we will win because we are the PNM. So tonight, I want to say to all the people of Trinidad and Tobago, this is local government time. Local government. You aren't going to vote to move no government. The general elections are due, and I have not called them yet. And I have no intention of calling it before it is due. But you are required to go to the polls and defend the work that has been done over the years, defend the prospect that is held out to you now, that we can do better in our communities, we can accept responsibility in our boroughs and our cities, we can manage our affairs. Nobody in Port of Spain should have to be talking about what to do with a drain in Arouca. And I'll tell you one thing for sure. As you give us the corporations, nobody in a PNM corporation would dare be there as a candidate, far less to hold office while they've been charged for bribery. None. So tonight I want to ask those of you who pay attention to the progress of your country, pay attention to what is on offer, pay attention to who, there's a blue tongue menace around the place. Just ignore them. Just ignore them. They have nothing useful to offer. Would you believe a party is formed? So they form party, free country. Blue tongue going on in Bitam. You know what he's campaigning on? You would not believe this. He is campaigning on the fact that he is down in Bitam talking. And the Prime Minister does play golf. You all see any sense in that? The fact that I play golf is the campaign issue for the Blue Tongue Party. And as for the other one, the less said, the better. You know, long time we used to have this carnival time, we used to play mask with mask face. Some of you too young to know that. You buy a mask face and you put it on. And little children should run behind and say, Master, I know you. Master, I know you. UNC, we know you. We don't want you. We want the people's national movement. So from this week, Saturday night we're in San Fernando. We will paint Sando red. And we move on to Siparia. We move on to Point Fortin. We move on to Diego Martin. We move on to San Grande. And when we do that, we intend to bring benefits to the people of Trinidad and Tobago. Because we know that great is the PNM. Great is the PNM. Great is the PNM, and we shall prevail.
Somebody touch me. Somebody touch me. Somebody touch my soul.
Trinidad and Tobago, you have heard from your political leader. Let us give him a round of applause. We are small, but we must never be insignificant. Brothers and sisters, as we end tonight, I ask you all to stand as we recognize the memory of the passing of Mr. Lalman, who was a councillor and an alderman of the Tunapuna Regional Corporation, by giving his memory a round of applause. Trinidad and Tobago, we have shown you why the PNM is the right choice with the right leader and the right candidates. And on August 14, when you vote for us, we will reform. We will reform local government. Brothers and sisters, I thank you. Do get home to your respective destinations safely and chant with me as we end. Great is the PNM, great is the PNM, great is the PNM, and we shall prevail.
Touch my soul. Somebody touch me.